There's a real chance you just yawned reading that sentence, or you will within the next few minutes just from thinking about yawning right now, even sitting alone with nothing actually happening around you. That's not a coincidence, and it's not random. Contagious yawning is a genuinely strange, well-documented behavior, and the explanation for it reaches into something surprisingly deep about how connected you are to the people around you. Contagious yawning is a real, measurable effect, not just a casual impression or something people only imagine noticing. Studies exposing people to a yawning cue, watching someone yawn, hearing a yawn, or even just reading about one, have found somewhere around 60 to 70% of people yawn in response within a short window afterward. That's a remarkably high, remarkably consistent rate for something with no obvious biological necessity behind it. You don't need to yawn just because someone nearby did. Your body does it anyway, almost every single time the opportunity presents itself. What makes this stranger is that watching someone yawn isn't even required to trigger it. Reading a detailed description of yawning, listening to an audio recording of one, or simply being asked to think carefully about yawning has been shown to trigger the same contagious response in a meaningful share of people. The trigger isn't really visual at all. It's conceptual, which suggests something closer to a genuine mental simulation happening, rather than a simple reflex copying a physical action you happen to witness. The leading explanation ties contagious yawning directly to empathy. Research led by psychologist Stephen Plottek and others found that people who score higher on standard empathy measures are also significantly more likely to catch a contagious yawn, while people scoring lower on those same measures show noticeably reduced rates, even when exposed to the exact same trigger under identical conditions. Brain imaging studies have also found overlapping activity between contagious yawning and regions associated with social cognition and understanding other people's mental states, suggesting this isn't a separate, isolated reflex, but something plugged directly into the same circuitry your brain uses to relate to other people more broadly. Some researchers connect this directly to mirror neurons, brain cells that activate both when you perform an action yourself and when you simply watch someone else perform that same action. The theory suggests that observing, hearing, or even just imagining a yawn activates some of the same neural pathways involved in physically producing one yourself, effectively blurring the line between watching an action and rehearsing it internally. This remains an active, sometimes contested area of neuroscience research, but it offers one plausible mechanical explanation for why a behavior this automatic could spread from person to person so reliably, almost like a small neurological echo of someone else's state. A 2011 study led by researchers Ivan Norcia and Elisabetta Palagi found something even more specific. How likely you are to catch someone's yawn depends heavily on your relationship with them. Family members and close friends triggered contagious yawns in each other far more reliably than acquaintances did, and acquaintances triggered them more reliably than complete strangers. The effect wasn't random at all. It tracked social closeness directly, almost like a built-in gauge, quietly measuring how emotionally connected you are to the specific person sitting across from you. This behavior isn't unique to humans either. Researchers have documented contagious yawning in chimpanzees, and in a genuinely striking finding, in domestic dogs specifically responding to human yawns, not just yawns from other dogs. A dog catching a yawn from its owner suggests this social synchronization mechanism can operate even across species lines, at least under the right conditions of familiarity and attention, which strongly supports the idea that this behavior is fundamentally about social connection rather than something narrowly specific to human cognition alone. A specific study led by researcher Teresa Romero in 2013 tested this directly, having dog owners yawn deliberately in front of their own dogs under controlled conditions, then comparing that to a control condition using a non-yawning mouth movement instead. Dogs yawn significantly more often in response to genuine yawns than to the control gesture, and dogs showed an even stronger response specifically to their own owner's yawn compared to a stranger's, echoing the same social closeness pattern already found in humans. That's a striking parallel, given that dogs and humans diverged onto separate evolutionary paths tens of thousands of years before either species had any reason to expect this specific behavior would ever need to cross between them. One compelling hypothesis for why this exists at all centers on group synchronization. Yawning is closely tied to shifts in alertness, and a behavior that spreads rapidly through a group could help synchronize arousal states across everyone at once, all becoming alert together, or all settling down to rest together at roughly the same time. For a social species relying on coordinated behavior for safety, a fast, automatic signal capable of syncing an entire group's readiness level would carry genuine, practical value, especially during transitions like waking, resting, or shifting attention as a unit. Susceptibility to contagious yawning also isn't fixed or universal across every stage of life. Studies tracking child development have found that contagious yawning is largely absent in children younger than about 4 years old, even when directly exposed to repeated yawning cues under controlled conditions, then increases steadily as children grow older, roughly tracking the same developmental window where more complex social understanding and theory of mind abilities are also emerging. That timing lines up suggestively with the empathy explanation, since the capacity to catch a yawn seems to develop alongside the broader capacity to understand and model other people's internal states, rather than existing as some fixed trait present from birth. It's worth being fair about how unsettled parts of this research still are. Some studies looking for a clean, simple correlation between empathy scores and yawn contagion have found weaker or inconsistent results than the original studies suggested, and researchers continue to debate exactly how strong and how universal the empathy link really is across different populations and different testing methods. Not yawning back at someone doesn't necessarily mean anything about how much you care about them either, since attention, tiredness, distraction, and plenty of other unrelated factors can all affect whether a contagious yawn actually happens in any given moment, regardless of the underlying relationship. Seen this way, that almost embarrassing moment of yawning right after watching someone else do it isn't really a sign of boredom or rudeness at all, whatever it might look like from the outside. It's a small, automatic piece of evidence that your brain is actively, unconsciously tracking the people around you, syncing up with them in a way that likely predates language itself by an enormous stretch of time. The next uncontrollable yawn that catches you off guard in a meeting or a conversation is your social brain quietly doing exactly what it's built to do, whether you meant for it to happen or not. It's strange to think something as small and involuntary as a yawn might be one of the oldest, most honest signals of connection your body still sends, quietly, without ever asking your permission first. That's exactly the kind of hidden thread this channel exists to dig up. If you want more of these, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.